I'm Peter Austin. That is a scorch mark left by a 16th century hellhound, and this is interesting. Supernatural dogs of one kind or another appear all over the British folklore landscape. Often they haunt quiet stretches of road, appearing alongside lonely travellers in the middle of the night. Other times they can be heard running in a huge pack across the sky as the hounds of the so-called wild hunt. And then again, they are occasionally encountered by folktale heroes, perhaps guarding a legendary treasure in some underground chamber. But I'm of the opinion that the so-called Black Dog of Bungay is the most interesting supernatural canine of them all. Not simply because it reportedly took the lives of several real people and left behind that physical evidence we've just seen, but also because scientists believe they've explained the tale in a way that seems just as fantastical as a visitation from a supernatural hellhound. This is the truth of the Black Dog of Bungay. The main source we'll be referring to today is A Strange and Terrible Wonder, recorded at the time by writer and priest Abraham Fleming. According to his account, on Sunday the 4th of August 1577, in the village of Bungay in Suffolk, there was a truly dreadful thunderstorm. With howling gales, torrential rain and lightning tearing through the sky, many of the locals feared for their lives as they gathered for the Sunday service at St. Mary's Church. Such was the force of the thunderclaps, we're told, that the building quaked and groaned in response. And this was made all the more frightening by the fact that despite it being gone 9 o'clock in the morning, the storm had shrouded the church in complete and utter darkness. According to Fleming, the congregation couldn't make each other out at all, save for when lightning flashed through the windows. And when it did, they also became aware of something else that was in the church with them. Accompanied by, quote, flashes of fire, which Fleming seems to consider as being something distinct to the lightning of the storm, a black dog had suddenly materialised in the church, with an appearance described as so horrible that many of the attendees feared it was the devil himself in the form of a hellhound. And maybe they were right, because it immediately ran up the aisle, moved into the crowd, and as it passed between two men who were on their knees praying, grabbed both of them by the neck and dispatched them instantly. Clearly not satisfied though, it then sunk its jaws into the back of a third man, and just in case we're still not convinced this dog was a supernatural one, we're told that the man's skin was drawn together and shrunk up as it were a piece of leather scorched in a hot fire. This man reportedly survived the attack, but I expect he spent the rest of his days as more of a cat person. Fleming doesn't specify exactly, but it seems that this was the moment the dog disappeared from the church. Just to add insult to injury though, we're told that the roof was also struck by lightning during the episode, causing damage to the clock and injuring the church warden, who was in that moment desperately trying to clear the gutters, presumably to help the roof cope with the torrential rain. Strangely though, it appears that St. Mary's wasn't the only church visited that day. In the nearby village of Blythburgh, as Fleming calls it, known today as Blythburgh, the very same creature was observed under remarkably similar circumstances. This time though, it was initially spotted high up above the worshippers of Holy Trinity Church, perched on a wooden beam that supported the main crucifix. Strange behaviour for a dog, I think we can all agree. It then headed down to ground level and, again moving through the crowd, managed to do away with 3 members of the congregation and burn another one on the back of their hand. It then made for the exit, but this time, according to more modern accounts, but not Fleming's, reached up and scorched the door with its fiery claws, leaving a mark that's still there to this day before disappearing into the storm. And so goes the tale of the Black Dog of Bungay. But I mean, it didn't really happen, did it? A monster dog with fiery paws that could somehow get up and down the rafters of a church? Well, don't be so sure. Not only do we have that account, written in the very year it all took place, and our alleged physical mark left by the hound, but the Bungay Church Register actually confirms that on the exact date of the legend, 2 men really did lose their lives inside the church building during a terrible storm. storm. Okay, interesting. And in fact, it's that storm that has led scientists to come up with an explanation for the event that's somehow more mysterious than a demon dog from hell. But to understand that explanation, we're going to have to look at one more bizarre incident that took place in a storm-ravaged church. 260 miles away from Bungay in the county of Devon lies the village of Widdicombe in the Moor, which, just like Bungay and Blythburgh, was once hit by weather so severe that it became known in local history as the Great Storm. The date this time, though, was the 21st of October 1638. That's 71 years after the Black Dog incident. While residents sheltered from the storm in the Church of St Pancras, a great darkness fell upon the building, and then with an almighty clap of thunder, something burst through one of the windows and moved around the room, badly burning many amongst the crowd and causing several fatalities. So far, so familiar. However, while these parishioners once again blamed the devil for this, he wasn't in the form of a demon dog here. Instead, the reports describe the apparition as a strange floating ball of fire, with at least one source specifying that it was over 8 feet tall. And this is crucial. You see, for hundreds of years, scientists and historians have occasionally written reports about an incredibly rare weather event known as ball lightning. As the name suggests, the phenomenon is described as an actual ball of energy, a glowing orb that can be seen floating around at ground level moments after a lightning strike, sometimes bouncing off objects or tearing them apart, and other times moving harmlessly through walls and into buildings like a ghost. It being such a rare and unpredictable thing, photo and video evidence of the phenomenon is incredibly scarce, and weather experts didn't even agree that it really existed until fairly recently. Because of this, it's actually quite difficult to know what exactly ball lightning looks like or how it behaves. According to eyewitness testimony, though, it can be a number of different colours, including white, blue, yellow, orange, or red. It may emit thick black smoke as it moves, it can be smaller than your hand or bigger than a child, and it can allegedly burn things it comes into contact with, or even cause fatal electrocution. Surely then, this is what was actually seen at Widdicombe in the Moor, an orb of light that entered the building within seconds of a lightning strike, causing significant injury to several people. It's understandable that the God-fearing locals, who had almost certainly never seen anything like it before, assumed that it was an evil force sent by the devil. In fact, one other characteristic often reported by witnesses of ball lightning is a strong smell of sulphur, like bad eggs, which just so happens to be exactly the smell that's traditionally associated with the fires of hell, probably due to the fact that in the material world, sulphur is often spewed out by volcanoes. So let's head back to Suffolk now and see where the evidence takes us. We know a very similar event took place in Widdicombe in the Moor, but with no mention of a black dog there, it's fairly safe to assume that that was a case of ball lightning. But I know what you're thinking, this can't possibly apply to Bungay and Blythburgh. The witnesses saw a black dog, not a ball of energy. Well, let's just leave appearances to one side for a moment and consider the effects instead. We know that ball lightning could have taken the lives of the 5 people the black dog was said to have claimed that day, and we also know it could have caused those nasty burns on the back of the man from Bungay and on the Blythburgh victim's hand. We have reports of lightning strikes and damage to the churches in both cases, and the appearance of the entity high above the parishioners at Blythburgh is particularly telling. Dogs aren't typically seen descending from church rafters, not even folkloric dogs, but this is pretty classic behaviour of ball lightning. But it's a fair question you're probably all asking right now. What do we make of this very specific canine description? Well, I'm afraid we're probably looking at a pretty boring case of Occam's razor here. You see, Fleming was not a local man, and so in all likelihood his pamphlet was either a retelling of an exaggerated story he'd been told by someone else, or possibly his own embellishment of a tale that never included a dog in the first place. this. Even if we do take him at his word though, we're told in his very own report that the worshippers were in such darkness that they couldn't even see each other. So what hope would they have in reliably perceiving a black animal that was running around the room? Dog or no dog though, the injuries received that day quite clearly point towards lightning of some kind. And if that lightning really did move around the churches as some sort of discernible entity, in contrast to the instantaneous effects you might expect from a regular old thunderbolt, then ball lightning really does seem to be our most likely culprit. As for the claw marks, well, sorry to disappoint, but it's actually very likely they were caused simply by church candles, or even if we do accept that they appeared on the day in question, they could also have been caused by ball lightning, which, rare as it is still more likely to have been in the church that day than an infernal hellhound. But hey, I hate to be a party pooper, you know, and as is implied in the word itself, the most important thing in folklore is not some scientific explanation or objective truth, but what the story means to the people, the local folk. And in Bungay, it's clear that it doesn't matter whether the story is true or not, as evidenced by the fact that the image of the black dog is all over the town as a sort of local symbol that everyone can share in. And honestly, if it's indeed true that the devil didn't visit Bungay, Blythburgh or Widdicombe-in-the-Moor during those frightening thunderstorms, the more likely culprit is no less terrifying or mysterious. See, you'll likely sleep well in your bed tonight knowing that the devil is not going to come in through your window during a heavy downpour and burn the back of your hand. But can you say the same for that most mysterious and unpredictable of weather phenomena, ball lightning? With that in mind, I don't think it's a stretch to say that the churchgoers of Bungay and Blythburgh really did see a deadly and almost supernatural monster that day in 1577. But rather than being sent by the devil, it may have come from Mother Nature herself. I've been Peter Austin, and that was interesting.